Welcome everyone to the channel. I'm Biggest Sweats, and today I'm bringing you an Outlaw Rogue guide for Mythic Plus and raiding. Season 4 has been out for a few days now, and I hope you are ready for a killer beginner guide to show you everything that you need to make yourself successful in this season. Now, before we get into the video, make sure you comment below your thoughts on Season 4 so far, and like and subscribe to the channel, and come and check us out over on Twitch, where we stream an abundance of MMOs and multiple other things. Come and show some love. Now we're heading into Season 4, you're going to want to know how viable this class is and its changes. Season 4 brings no changes for Rogues at all, with the most recent changes for Rogue having been patched 10.2.5 instead, but it still does have its strengths and weaknesses. Blade Flurry allows us for constantly high cleave and AoE damage. So AoE damage is very high when it comes to Outlaw Rogues, and we have very high sustained DPS. Means we're always pumping. We might not have extremely high bursts or anything like that, but our maintained DPS is very high. We can be versatile in both raiding and Mythic Plus content with multiple builds that work, and we have exceptional survivability. Feint, Cloak of Shadows, Evasion, and Crimson Vial all come to mind in keeping us alive. Now, we also bring a good level of utility from blinds, AoE blinds now, Gouge, Shroud of Concealment, and a lot of ways to scale the dungeons and raids how we see fit. Now, Outlaw Rogue isn't the best class in the game by far and does come with its weaknesses. Variance in damage output is depending on Sinister Strike procs, which can suck. High cooldown uptime leads to no powerful burst phases in our DPS curve, even with Bloodlust. High reactive gameplay, which requires quick reflexes and thinking, making the spec hard to execute flawlessly. It can turn into this spammy, mechanical running and just waiting for your energy to build up. It can be so up and down with your roll the bones as well. It can be hard to maintain. And it relies on extending Adrenaline Rush. Losing uptime through deaths or boss transitions can severely hurt our DPS output. Next up, we're going to be talking about stat priority for Outlaw Rogue and how this works going into Season 4. Outlaw Rogue stats are Critical Strike, Haste, Mastery, and Versatility, all providing different things when it comes to the Rogue. Now, our priority is Versatility, then Critical Strike, then Haste, and Mastery. Now, this always comes down to your gear and how you sim your character. You want to be heading over to raid bots when you get a juicy piece of new loot just to sim it, because sometimes you might fall short of a stat and sometimes you might have too much of a stat. So raid bots is going to allow you to perfectly fine tune your character to the way you want it to and get the most DPS out of every piece of gear you pick up. Now for the beginners, Critical Strike has a chance to double damage with your attacks. Haste increases the attack speed and energy regeneration. Mastery increases the damage of your main gouge offhand attack that can proc from main hand attacks. And finally, Versatility increases all damage done and reduces damage taken. Now, the order for Outlaw Rogue, once again, for all types of content is going to be Versatility, then Critical Strike, Haste, and then Mastery. Next up, we're going to be talking talent trees and which talents you're going to take to optimize your DPS in dungeons and raids, raid single target and multi-target. Now, we're going to start up with dungeons. In row 1 on our rogue points, these are available for all 3 specs. We're starting with Shiv, Blind, and Cloak of Shadows. We're then going into row 2 with Evasion, Airborne Irian, and Shadow Step. In row 3, we're going Master Poisoner with Elusiveness. You can also take Cheat Death depending on what dungeon or environment you're going into. You're then taking Tricks of Trade to off-pass our aggro to anyone else. In row 4, we are taking Nimble Fingers. We are taking Improved Sprint and Shadowrunner. In row 5, we are taking Fleet-Footed, Featherfoot, and Subterfuge. In row 6, we are going Anthropic Poison. The other poison is just as viable, again, depending on what dungeon and environment you're going into. We are taking Deadened Nerves and Still Shroud. In row 7, we are going Deadly Precision. We are going Recuperator, and we are going Tight Spender. In row 8, we are going 1 point into Lethality, Acrobatic Strikes, 2 points into Alacrity, and Soothing Darkness. In row 9, we are taking Echoing Reprimand, and we are taking 2 points Night Stalker. In row 10, the final row, we are taking Resounding Clarity, we are taking 1 point Deeper Stratagem, and finally, Shadow Dance. These are our rogue side talents for dungeons. Next up, we are going into our Outlaw points, our right side and our spec-specific tree. We're starting with Opportunity, of course. We're then going into Adrenaline Rush, which is what makes us keep our energy regeneration so high. In the third row, we're going Retractable Hook, Combat Potency, Combat Stamina, and Hit and Run. In row 4, we are taking Float Like a Butterfly and Precision Shot. In row 5, we are going Devious Stratagem, Thief's Versatility, and Fatal Flush. with quick draw and deft maneuvers. In row 5, we are taking Ruthlessness, we are taking Loaded Dice, we are taking Ace Up Your Sleeve, and Improved Between the Eyes. In row 6, we are taking Triple Threat, we are taking Improved Adrenaline Rush, and Dancing Steel. In row 7, we are going into Underhanded Upper Hand, we are taking Ghostly Strike, Count the Odds, and Precise Cuts. In row 9, we are taking Summarily Dispatched, 2 points, and 2 points into Fan the Hammer. And the final row, we are taking Crack Shot and Keep It Rolling. This is going to be your dungeon talents for the most part of the season. If this changes, of course, we will come back and create a new video so you guys know, but these are your dungeon talents. Now, I'm going to show you raid multi-target first, as the tree hardly changes. Literally one particular point changes in this. So we're going to quickly change over to raid multi. And as you can see, we are going from Shiv into Iron Stomach. That is our only change between raiding multi-target and dungeons. And the final part of the talent section will be our raid single target. Now, we fall short a little bit here, but we still can hold our own in most environments. Now, row 1, we are taking Blind and Cloak of Shadows. Row 2, Evasion and Shadow Step. Row 3, Master Poisoner, Cheat Death, and Tricks of the Trade. Row 4, Nimble Fingers, Improved Sprint, and Shadowrunner. Row 5, we're taking Fleet-Footed, Iron Stomach, Unbreakable Stride, Feather of Thought, and Subterfuge. In row 6, we are taking Anthropic Poison, Deadened Nerves, and Graceful Guile. In row 7, we are taking Deadly Precision, Recuperator, and Improved Ambush. Row 8, we are taking Leeching Poison, Lethality, 1 point, 2 points into Alacrity, and 1 point into Soothing Darkness. Row 9, we are taking 2 points Vigor, and 2 points Night Stalker. And row 10, we are taking Deeper Stratagem and Shadow Dance. These are our rogue-specific points for raiding single target. Now, our outlaw side of the tree for raiding single target, we are starting with row 1, Opportunity. Row 2, Adrenaline Rush. Row 3, we are going Retractable Hook, Combat Potency, and Hit and Run. Row 4, we are taking Blinding Powder and Float Like a Butterfly. And finally, Precision Shot. Row 5, we are taking Heavy Hitter, Devious Stratagem, Thief's Versatility, Fatal Flourish, and Quick Draw. Row 6, we are taking Ruthlessness, Swift Slasher, Loaded Dice, Ace Up Your Sleeve, and Improved Between the Eyes. Then we are taking Audacity and Improved Adrenaline Rush. Row 8, we are taking Underhanded Upper Hand. We are taking Ghostly Strike, Count the Odds, and Blade Rush this time. In row 9, we are taking 2 points into Taken by the Surprise and 2 points Fan the Hammer. In the final row, row 10, we are taking Hidden Opportunity and Crack Shot. All of these trees will be linked below, so feel free to copy the code and get these imported super quickly. Next up, we're going to be talking gear, enchants, consumables, gems, and everything you need to prep to make sure you're doing your highest damage when it comes to dungeons and raids. This is going to be a long bit, so stay with me. Now for gear, we're going to be aiming for our tier set. Whether you get this from dungeons and then upgrade them, whether you get these from raids, heroic, normal, or mythic and acquire your set piece that way, or the revival catalyst, which you can be using every week or every other week. At the moment, you can't get a full set without getting lucky in the raid right now. You can also get them in the Great Vault, so don't shirk on doing your dungeons because they can also appear there. Now, when it comes to tier sets this season, everyone got the ability to vote on which tier set from the 3 raids they wanted to bring back. Now, we got the Amidrasil raid set, so 2 set is Sinister Strike has a 15% additional chance of striking an additional time. And the 4 set is Roll the Bones, additionally refreshes a random Roll the Bones combat enhancement buff you currently possess. So if you are already rocking this tier set, you are still at a advantage, you know, from season 3, so that's a good thing. Also, it's an awesome looking set, so you get another chance to grab it. Now, next up, we're going to be filling in the additional pieces of gear. I'm going to be naming the extra stuff, raiding, what you can get from there, and dungeons, what you can get from there. Now, the raid changes weekly at the moment for your gear, so you do have an opportunity to go and search each week for these certain pieces of gear. Now, your neck is going to be from Vel'Koros, the Arboreal Necklet. Your cloak is going to be the Voice of the Silent Star from Scale Commander Sarkareth. Your rings are going to be the Seal of the Herner's Chosen from Eranog. And your other ring is going to be the Signet of the Last Elder from Igera the Cruel. Your main hand is going to be the Thorn Claw from 𝐒𝐻𝐂𝐈𝐀𝐋𝐒, and your offhand Enduring Shard of Teros from Teros. Next up, if you do dungeons or want to aim for some of your best slot from here, we're going to go with our neck, which is the Tuskar Bone Necklace from Brackenhard Hollow, the Potion Stained Cloak from 𝐒𝐻𝐂𝐈𝐀𝐋𝐒, that's your cloak. Your rings are going to be the Thunderous Downburst Ring from Noku Defensive and the Eternal Sentries Ring from Uldaman. Your main hand will be Forge Storm from Nelferis, and your offhand is going to be the Croaking Dagger from Halls of Infusion. Now, we're going to speak about trinkets, but a little bit more in depth, as, you know, it can get quite specific here what you're aiming for. Now, crafted gear. This is always a big thing when it comes to each new season. So for AoE, if you're really focused on just getting them dungeons done, you want 2 of the Shadow Flame tempered armor patches on your pieces of gear, preferably your lowest item level. But if you want more of a single target thing going on, you want to build the Toxic Thorn foot wraps, because it's a single target proc with the Toxic patch on probably your belt. Next up, we're going to be talking trinkets, single target, and AoE. This information comes directly from Blood Mallet, which is a simulation site. You can go there yourself and have a look at all of this and much more. Now I'm going to list the top 4 for single target and the top 4 for AoE and where to get them from. So single target, we have the Cataclysmic Signet Brand from Smolderon. We have the Dragonfire Bomb Dispenser from Skarn. We have the Manic Grief Torch from Broodkeeper Deherna. And we have the Coiled Serpent Idol from Volcaros. I'm going to show everything on screen just like I have the rest of the video. Now for AoE, so it's probably going to most likely be your dungeon trinkets. This is for 5 targets, plus top by far is the Storm Eater's Boon, which comes from Dathia Descended. I absolutely hate using this trinket, as it requires you to play around with it a lot, you know, shadow stepping, using your cloak to avoid damage, all sorts of stuff like that, because it keeps you stationary. So I hate using it, but it is so good. Next up, we have the Controlled Current Technique, which is from Kurog. We have Nelfarian's Call to Suffering from Nelfarian, and again we have the Cataclysmic Signet Brand. Any of these trinkets I've listed, both for single target and AoE, are going to be great. But right here, if used correctly, Storm Eater's Boon absolutely obliterates every other trinket in AoE. Now we're going to be talking gems and enchants. Now, you can always sim these as well, but your main gems this season are going to be the Resplendent and Limited Diamond, as you're only allowed 1, and the rest you're going to be using are Radiant Malagites. Now, again, you can sim this because sometimes you can use gems to bring up certain stats you need to be a little bit higher, or bring them down if need be. Now, your enchants are straightforward. For Cloak, we're going Graceful Avoidance. For Chest, we're going Waken Stats. For Braces, we're going Devotion of Leech. For your belt, Shadowed Belt Clasp. For your boots, we're going Watcher's Loam. For your pants, Fierce Armor Kit. For your rings, Devotion of Versatility. And Sophic Devotion for both of your weapons. Now, in this section, we're going to end with consumables. Now, there's a choice of 2 right here for your files. Iced Phial of Corrupting Rage is going to add damage, or Phial of Tepid Versatility is going to add a bit of damage and a bit of survivability. Now, the food is always going to be the Grand Banquet of 𝐒𝐿a. It's always cheap, it's always used, so just grab it yourself. Simple as, or just grab the cheapest stat food for you. Your weapons are going to be Howling, Buzzing Rune, or Hissing Rune. Now, this is going to be according to how your stats are currently are. Most of the time, you're probably going to be taking Buzzing Rune, which is your crit rune. Now, your health potion are Dream Walker's Healing Potion. Your augmentation rune is Draconic Augment Rune. I never use these. You can do completely fine without them, so don't worry about that. Your potions are going to be Elemental Potion of Ultimate Power, fairly cheap nowadays, so grab them. And if you want to increase your damage in raids, and you're in a guild group, and they say that they want to get this boss down, and they say yes, you can use a Vantus Rune for any of the raids. So next up, we have our Outlaw rotation, what it's going to look like. Now, simplified rotation. We're always going to use Blade Flow before pull, refresh it before it drops off. Use Adrenaline Rush and Slice and Dice before the pull. Use Sinister Strike as your main builder. Use Ambush when it's available to cast. And Pistol Shot when you have an opportunity proc at either 0 or 1 CP. Or when you are Shadow Dance or Subterfuge. Use Dispatch as your main finisher. Use Between the Eyes on cooldown if it is available during Shadow Dance, Vanish, or Subterfuge. Only use Between the Eyes. Use Roll the Bones on cooldown if you only have 1 buff, or only 2 buffs and Loaded Dice is active. Use Adrenaline Rush, Ghostly Strike, and Shadow Dance on cooldown. Use Shadow Dance and Vanish at maximum combo points, and with Between the Eyes ready. Maintain Slice and Dice at all times, and use Blade Rush when you are out of energy. You will want to try to use finishing moves at 6+ combo points or higher, or 5+ if you have, or if you are in Subterfuge or Shadow Dance. Try to hold your Fan the Hammer procs for your Shadow Dance windows. Do not use Between the Eyes unless the cooldown on your Vanish is 45 seconds and your Shadow Dance is over 15 seconds. This is an overview to your rotation. Next up, we're going to be talking multi-target rotation, so dungeons and multiple raid targets. I'm going to show you how I would approach this situation with my details action tracker up here, and then we're going to go into more of an in-depth look at it. Now, as we watch the rotation here on what I'm doing and the combo between me and my trinkets and my cooldown uses. So the main points of the AoE rotation are we're going to be using Roll the Bones on cooldown unless you have the desired buffs. We're going to maintain Blade Flurry, but our talent, underhanded, upper hand, will maintain this for you on large parts of the fight. We're going to maintain Slice and Dice, but upper hand will also maintain this for the most parts as well. We're going to use Keep It Rolling when you have 4+ buffs already. We're going to use Adrenaline Rush on cooldown at low combo points. We're going to cast Between the Eyes on cooldown. Do not use it if you've got Vanish is below 45 seconds or Shadow Dance is below 15 seconds. This is due to Crack Shot to ensure that Between the Eyes we're ready to cast. We're going to cast Blade Rush on cooldown, but in a multi-target situation we're not going to be using it. But if you are, you can. Cast Ghostly Strike on cooldown as if it is a regular builder. Put this on your main target as it's going to increase your damage against it. We're going to use Blade Flurry on cooldown if there are more than 5 targets and you have talented deft maneuvers. We're going to cast Dispatch as your main finisher. Cast Vanish or Shadow Dance and max combo points followed by Between the Eyes. Next up, we're going to be talking a little bit about our single target rotation and how this slightly differs. I'm going to show you how I would go into the situation with the event tracker, and then we're going to give an overview, not a list step by step, but an overview of how you can look at your single target rotation. Now, our overview of the single target rotation. So we're going to Blade Flurry when you have 2 or fewer seconds remaining on its duration. Now, the reason we're using Blade Flurry is because it generates combo points on its off hits, right? So we're going to use that anyway, even in a single target environment. Roll the Bones if you have 2 or fewer buffs or 2 or fewer seconds remaining on its duration. We're going to Adrenaline Rush on cooldown or below at 2 combo points. We're going to Blade Rush at 30 energy or lower. Do not cast during Subterfuge or Shadow Dance. Ghostly Strike on cooldown. This ability is off the GCD. We're going to Vanish, followed by Between the Eyes at 6 or more combo points. We're going to Shadow Dance, followed by Between the Eyes at 6 or more combo points. Between the Eyes on cooldown if at 6 or more combo points during Subterfuge or Shadow Dance. Finish at 5 or more. Hold if Vanish has 45 seconds or fewer on its cooldown. Hold if Shadow Dance has 15 seconds or fewer on its cooldown. Slice and Dice if at 6 or more combo points and has 12 or less seconds remaining. Do not refresh during Subterfuge or Shadow Dance, and upper handedness is going to keep your Slice and Dice and Blade Flurry consistently active, so don't worry too much. Obviously, this isn't a step-by-step guide. I cannot give you a step-by-step guide. I can give you an overview on how your systems work because fights can change and can be very, very different. It's up to you to practice on target numbers, to sim your character, and do everything you need to do to make it work. And that right there is the end of the guide, guys. I hope you have learned a little bit more about your Outlaw Rogue, or even consider trying the class if you are new to it or new to WoW. If you have any questions, please comment them below. I've been 𝐒𝐿𝐻𝐿, and until next time, peace!